Hello and welcome to the February edition of my vlog. Now, my last video left you all on a bit of a cliffhanger. I hope. I was just about to play in the Gibraltar Chess Festival and I'd embarked on a new, rather vigorous training regime. After a run of bad events, I really wanted to shake things up. I'd had enough. And well, in this video, I will tell you what parts of the regime am I keeping, which parts have I quietly discontinued, and I'm also going to answer the most important question: how did Gibraltar go for me? Well, I scored 5 points out of 10, which there's no buts about it. It wasn't the result I was hoping for. It was pretty disappointing, actually. So I was left feeling a little bit downhearted, but once I started investigating the chess, I realized there is a lot to be pleased about. Now, I'm going to give you three critical moments from my tournament. I'd like you to treat them as exercises, and I'm going to give you the full backstory behind them, what I was feeling, and I'd like you to put yourself in my shoes and have a go at solving these problems. The first critical moment comes from my game against David Navarra in the first round. So, backstory here is that I have been surprised with a novelty out of the opening. After my 9th move, David has played bishop b4 check. The standard move was king d8. And in fact, king d8 was a move that David himself had played before. But the problem with playing Super Grandmasters is that they play everything. You have to check all your bases. And yes, I mean, maybe you prepared this line, but you also had to prepare 10 other lines in the morning as well. But yeah, surprise, bishop b4 check, c3, bishop a5. So all my hours of opening study from the previous month has just gone out of the window, and I'm on my own. What do I do here? So do I go knight d6 check? Do I attack the bishop with b4? Attack the bishop with knight b3? Do I just castle? Do I try to put my bishop on this wonderful long diagonal by going bishop e2, bishop f3, or maybe even g3? That was the decision I had to make. So I would like you to put yourself in my shoes and think, are you going to attack the bishop? Are you going to go knight d6, then go knight takes c8, or are you going to do something different? Now, you cannot just go, I'm going to castle, and then leave it at that. This position requires more than this, because black has a pair of bishops, and white has a pair of knights. White has also compromised its pawn structure. I have some double pawns, and black has a very strong pawn on a d7. So he gets d7, d5, well, then black has a great position. So you can't just do nothing. You have to have a concrete plan of maximum discomfort for black. So give you a chance to pause your computers and then stop. Last chance. Well, I'm going to tell you first of all what I played in the game. So I played knight d6, king e7. Now, I'm going to say first half, knight d6 is a mistake. And it's a mistake from a purely practical point of view, because I played knight d6 and my opponent, well, let's go back. How much time is it going to take him to play king e7? No time. Knight takes c8. How much time? Well, no thought required. You're forced to go rook takes knight. And then let's move on to my next move, bishop d3. I am taking time because I'm thinking, should my bishop go on d3? Should it go on a different diagonal? And my opponent's reaction will be pretty much instantaneously. The knight wants it to get developed. Knight c6. And now after knight takes c6, again, there's this old little saying that you should capture towards the center. It's a no-brainer here. And then here I played the slightly dubious move, f5. The pawn is a little bit out on its own over here. And again, it really doesn't take too long for my opponent to play e5. You know, he wants to win. So of course, he's going to maintain this pawn structure and also trying to seize space in the center. So I play king e2, d5, and as the arrows show, he has an open line to work down. Rook a b8 is coming. e4 is in the air, with followed by king f6. And you might say, well, what about the presence of opposite color bishop? Well, this in fact does give me drawing chances, but at the same time, it means I cannot challenge on the dark squares whatsoever. And my bishop on d3 is so restricted. There's a nice harmony to black's position, not so much harmony to mine. So bad decision. And what was even worse than that was that it took me time. It took me around about 1 hour at least to reach this position. And it took my opponent, I think, a minute. I think he had more time than when he started to reach here. So who's going to have the advantage here? Well, black, of course. And it had a real impact on the game, because when a critical moment happened on move 32, my opponent has just played bishop f6 from, should I play rook d7 or should I go king c4? Well, guess what? I had no time on the clock and I really wanted to play rook d7, but I was very afraid of the following ending after bishop takes e4 check. And I was afraid of the black king coming to f4, e3, and then snaffling up my kingside pawns. I was afraid that these two passed pawns would be very strong, and I just could not calculate it. So that's why I chose to play king c4, which is also a good move. But with no time on the clock, you're still thinking, well, what might have been? And the real blunder came after rook h7, h3, e4, takes, and then king d5. I wanted to play king takes c5, but again, no time on the clock to work out what would happen after e3. It's scary stuff, you know, with the king coming. Do I have the resources? My pawns are very backward. Sorry. Yeah, and this kind of all betrays back to my decision on move 11. So let's go back to that position and let's have a look at what I should have been doing. Now, to kind of answer this question, what should you have been doing? Ask yourself, what does black want to play? And once you ask yourself that question, it becomes really obvious. Black wants to go d5, and then he wants to go bishop d7, knight c6. Doesn't really matter the placing, but the important move is d7, d5. So once you understand that, you're like, okay, well, I have to stop that. And the only way to stop that is to go knight b3, and after bishop b6, you want to go c4. And a nice arrow is highlighting that this bishop really belongs on this long diagonal. And then here, you know, white starts having nice pressure. You know, I can always do this idea of knight d6. I do not need to rush with that. c4 is in the air. Again, c5 is coming. Knight d6 can be played whenever, but it can be played in a moment where I can go c5. And yeah, white has a nice bind. Definitely, this is the way to try for an advantage. I just wanted to say something that when you are playing someone higher rated, please do not be intimidated. This is what they want. They want you to be terrified of them. Don't make those decisions that, you know, basically lead to equality. Try for more. Now, my second critical moment comes from my 5th round game, where I was playing white against Noel Studer from Switzerland. Again, another grandmaster, higher rated than me, but I have gotten an awesome piece of prep, been bashing out the moves, but at this current position, I am on my own. Black played king takes f8, and now I'm going to stop here. And I'm going to ask you to think about this position. I want you to consider the advantages of white's positions. I want you to consider possible weaknesses. And also, never forget, what does black want to do? So take a pause here, last chance, and then we're going to dive in. So let's have a look. So first of all, there is a consequence with black playing king takes f8. And what's the consequence of that? Well, this pawn on h7 undefended. Also, taking a look at the pawn structure, we can see that this pawn on a7, well, got my eyes on you, little guy. Yeah, definitely a target. It's on its own. It can be won. And next thing we notice is that the rooks, I have a rook for black versus a bishop and 2 pawns, but rooks are very linear pieces and they need open lines. And look, I have an open line on the B line. So just imagine a rook gets to B1, then gets to B7. And that pawn on A7, well, that is going to be toast. So when you combine all those things, you can certainly see that the natural moves that come into consideration are Queen B1, and also another move with the idea of consequences to H7 is C4, which combines the idea of Queen B1 with Queen going to H5 and the Rook still coming to B1 and B7. And so you're looking at complete domination. Opening up the position is completely to my advantage. What does Black want to play? So let's have a look. Black needs to consolidate this A7 pawn. Now this A7 pawn is of the highest priority because this H7 pawn is just one move away from being defended. But this A7 pawn, well, it's on its own. And secondly, to meet this idea of going Rook B1 versus Rook B7, well, I like to block that line up. So the first move is Bishop D8, Bishop B6, and that's it. Black has harmony. So when you think like that, the answer is very clear. Okay, so C4 is the most dynamic move. Moves like D takes C4. Although Black now has passed pawns, I've opened up an extra line for the white rook. And these pawns on C5 and A7 are just weak. In fact, if Black tries to do this, then I think Queen H5 is just very, very strong. C takes Queen H5 and you don't really get the chance to go Bishop B6. Other moves that you can play is after C4, Knight F6. Again, Queen B1, and Black doesn't have the time to go Bishop D8, Bishop B6, and put into that operation that fortress. Another move that fits in nicely with the mandate is to play Queen B1, and this certainly was on my radar, but I kind of rejected it because of C4. I was very worried about the bishop coming to C5 and just achieving just a nice pawn chain. But every move has consequences, and the point of C5, C4 is that now the D4 square is available. So Knight F3, Bishop C5, well then Knight E5 is just very strong, followed by Rook B7, or there's even a threat of Knight E7 check, D7 check. Yeah, what did I play? Well, I completely forgot to think about what Black would like to do. And after King takes F8, I played Queen A1. And the funny thing is, as soon as I released the Queen, I realized, oh no, he's going to play Bishop D8. And after Bishop D8, Rook B1, Bishop B6, I played C4. But of course, you keep the tension. You don't go D takes C4 because that fits in with White's idea. And after Queen C7, there's a very, very nice harmony to the Black position. You know, he has the pawns. He doesn't even have to do anything, and I have no plan of improvement. So, well, I had that one shot, that one moment, and I missed. Third and final critical moment comes from my last round game against Peter Sari. I was playing White and we have reached the following position. Now, optically, White is very much the one pushing. I have a wonderful knight on D6 and I have wonderfully placed rooks on C1 and D1. And it's just a case of maximizing that pressure to create something concrete. And it's very clear with black's last move, he's going to be playing king e7 and bishop e8, and he wants to chase that knight away. So what decision would you take in this position? So would you try, what move would you play? What kind of plan? So have a think, and I want you to pause. Last chance. And now we are going to get stuck in. Now, I kind of planned to get to this position because I had the following idea in mind. I wanted to play knight takes b7, rook takes b7, and the whole idea was that I could do rook takes knight, bishop takes rook, just rook takes rook, and I am just simply a pawn up with a great position. That was my plan, and black, I have to, yeah. So black also has the move knight takes b4, but after knight takes rook, knight takes a2, rook c2, I think black should maybe be playing knight d5, rook takes d5, e takes d5, knight takes f7. I'm doing well, but knight takes b4 is quite spectacular. But when you look at the following position after rook takes c6, and you kind of compare and contrast it with the original position, you actually see, yes, white has won a pawn, but let's go back, and the black's activity, on the other hand, has shot through the roof. The rook was just on b8, defending the b7 pawn. Now the rook is on a semi-open line, a5 is coming, and I've basically done black's work for him. He wanted to open up the position. He wanted to maximize his pieces, and I've just done it at the cost of one pawn, which probably will fall. And a5 is there. Unfortunately, b takes a5 is just not possible because of rook b2. I told you that king was badly placed on e2. And yeah, if I drop back the rook, then, well, lo and behold, there's bishop b5 in the air, but rook a8 is the way to maximize that, and I can't handle this activity. A takes b4 is coming, bishop b5 is also going to be an unpleasant pin. So yes, so mentally I thought, well, what am I doing? No, do not win the pawn. The pawn is poisoned, forbidden. And so instead I went into the tank and I thought, I actually need to increase the pressure. How can I do this? And I started looking at the position, and I have many pawn advances. You have a4, b5. That's one way how to increase the position. a4 is very difficult to get because of knight takes b4. I also have moves like h3, g4, and the final pawn advance I have is e4 to e5. And the more I started investigating e4, e5, the more I realized actually I like it. And my whole plan was that after e4, king e7, e5, knight g4. Now the knight is very awkwardly placed on g4, so this allows me to go h3, and lo and behold, I have sacrificed a pawn, but in return, my rook gets to the 7th rank, and I'm threatening things like knight takes pawn. Unfortunately, because my king is on e2, I always have to be aware of bishop b5 check. So, but definitely f4 is my plan, and the computer just laughs at me and says black should just play king f8. But, you know, to the human eye, after f4, knight g6, f5 looks very, very dangerous. I'm really not sure whether too many people would be touching this. My opponent was afraid of f4 and reacted with g5, g3, and now he should play king f8, but he played king f6, which makes him very vulnerable to check. Knight coming to e4, and also a rook takes f7 check, potentially in the future. So I continued with my plan, knight g6, king e3, bishop e8, and I just wanted to point out one rather cool resource, which is to play bishop b3. Now, one of my favorite quotes, it's a new quote. I haven't really heard it too often, but it's something I actually read in Neil MacDonald's Coach Yourself book. He says, Fisher liked to quote this one by Tarash. And if you don't know what to do, wait until your opponent gets an idea. It's sure to be wrong. And there is an art to that. And just to give you an example, my opponent might not have a complete idea what to do, so might play knight e7 and then, oops, knight e4, nets a piece. Another potential idea would be knight h4, trying to get a knight to f5, but knight e4, king g7, rook g1, king h8, and knight f6 is again incredibly dangerous. In fact, the best move after bishop b3 is you want to play knight e7, but yeah, it's not possible because of knight e4, so the best move is probably rook takes d6. And then knight e7, and you have to say, what kind of wizardry is this? But, you know, these two minor pieces have a very, very nice harmony, and black probably has enough compensation for the exchange. I didn't play that. I played knight e4, jack, and after king g7, it is the goal of every gambiter to win back material, and after bishop takes e6, I could kind of breathe a sigh of relief. I have pressure. I have targets on b7. And after rook d1, f5, I won quite a nice ending. So, yeah, unusual stuff for me. Instead of winning the pawn, I sacrificed one just for pressure. Unusual stuff. Now, for those of you that have been following my chess journey will know that in January, I decided enough was enough and I was going to radically change absolutely everything. This involved my mindset and also my chess training regime. And my point with changing the training regime was to become a little bit more systematic. So I had 3 things that I really wanted to do. First of all, 2 hours of opening study per day, 50 chess tactics minimum, and reading Coach Yourself by Grandmaster Neil MacDonald. Now, how's it going? Well, in terms of opening study, I have definitely kept up my love of wood and definitely worked on my opening for 1 to 2 hours per day. Now, for me, what works the best is actually to have very organized lines in your database, and then with a sparring partner, getting out the chess set and playing through your opening lines and understanding when is it important to actually play very aggressively and when is it important to take a bit more positional approach. And also suddenly you'll get a lot more natural questions like, well, what happens if my opponent plays this? What happens if I play this? What is the most natural response? What does the hand really want to play? And you'll understand those things. So loving my work on that so far, but I have to give you a sneak confession. Things are changing on my opening front. I don't know when I'll get to try these new ideas, but well, we will see. Fingers crossed, I'll keep you posted. When it comes to my second goal, well, when it comes to tactics, I have been storming through this one. I cannot help myself. I love solving tactics. And then when I discovered the following feature, well, oh, it's official. I am a chess tactics addict. I cannot stop. Let me show you why. Here I am using Forward Chess on my desktop. Now I've opened a book by Bill Harvey called Sack and Mate Volume 1, and it's 1,000 tactical exercises all ending checkmate. Now, what I love about this collection is that they are bunched in groups of 50. So there is no reason not to do 50 in one sitting. The puzzles themselves range between 2 movers to 4 move sequences. And amongst them, we have puzzles by Napoleon, Captain Evans, Bobby Fischer, and Mikhail Tal. And I've bought this book quite a few years ago because it was selling for ridiculously cheap. I think I paid £3, £2.99 for the book. I think volume 2 is also, and volume 3 are also available for not so much money. And the way that I recommend that you read this book is that you click on this learn, and a tactics trainer will pop up. So I'm just going to click that and it will go to the last puzzle you did. Now, I was not lying when I said that I am completely addicted with this feature. And as you can see, I have done the green highlights, the ones I've done. So I've done 868 puzzles. And I've done this in probably less than a week. So yeah, addicted. So here, white mates in 3. Now, my main goal with these puzzles actually isn't to get as fast as time as possible. It's actually I want to train on candidate moves. And I want to train on seeing the checks, the captures, the attacks. So just to run through them. So any checks, the first one is kind of quite obvious because queen takes rook. You also have rook f8, but queen takes rook is such a beautiful shot that I can't resist. And here we go. And a pop-up comes asking you whether you want to continue, or if you've had enough with solving exercises, you can simply hit the close and the puzzles will stop. So let's continue. And I'll give you a chance to work along beside me. So here, again, I'm trying to train on my regime. So it would be any checks. We have rook f7 check. And if I look a little bit deeper, see rook f7 check would be checkmate if it wasn't for the queen on e8. So how about queen h8 check? The queen is therefore distracted and I get to play rook f7. Now, the beauty of this trainer is that you can get the answer wrong and still get another attempt. You can also play a good move, but it's slightly inaccurate, and still there you will have another attempt. It's brilliant because you can just keep on going and keep training. So here, white mates in 2. So I would love to play queen to d7, and that would be checkmate if it weren't for that pesky queen on f5. So I'm going to try to decoy that queen, and I can see another check on the board, which is bishop h5. So bishop h5 check. Aha, queen has been decoyed, and then I can play queen to d7. And last go for luck. And here I'm going to see white mates in 3. And again, I'm going to run through my technique, which is to look at the checks first. So we have bishop h6 check. We have queen g7, we have queen h6, and we also have a bit more natural move of rook c8 check. So rook c8, we have rook e8. So those are kind of my candidate moves, and I would like to remember I only have 3 moves to mate. And okay. So the first move I can see is that I really want to get the king to jam its escape route. So now the rook is in the way of the king. And if I got my queen to g7, that would be checkmate. So I need to decoy that rook on g6. And I'm going to play bishop h6 and queen to g7 checkmate. And yeah, what can I say? I'm utterly obsessed with this feature. My goal in January was to do 50 tactics per day minimum. And on a normal tactics trainer, I was doing perhaps 60, 70 on a good day. Using this, I don't know whether I should come clean, but I've done 150 puzzles in one sitting. I can't help it. I just want to keep on solving. And my final goal for January and February was to finish Grandmaster Neil MacDonald's Coach Yourself. And I am so pleased to report I have broken the habit of a lifetime of starting a book and not finishing by absolutely whizzing through this book. Now, Neil MacDonald's book is actually really incredibly easy to read. The explanations are so thorough that even if the exercise is a little bit complicated, the answer is so well explained that actually you begin to understand and grasp the concepts. Now, I know that there are some of you, rather like people who like to watch movies and like to know which scenes are the funniest. I'm going to give you a little spoiler as to which chapter is basically a must read. So let's have a look at my absolutely recommended chapter. Now, for me, the standout chapter of this book, which is a must read, if you've got it in your bookcase, if you've got it on your mobile device, read it now. Well, that is chapter 5, supercharging your feel for the initiative. Now, this is one of the most important things about chess, actually. Neil MacDonald really breaks it down. Like, he has them beautiful examples, and he talks about certain things like in exchange sacrifice that Sergei Karyakin does against Fabiano Caruana, which is all about clamping your opponent's activity. And it's not just a case of just coordinating your army forward. It's also thinking about what your opponent wants to do and stopping it. There's also another brilliant example by Elena Kashlinskaya against Sam Sevian, where she disrupts the enemy forces. You know, it's not just about pushing forward with high pieces. She sacrifices a piece, and Sam Sevian just doesn't know how to handle this. And another is to seize the initiative via opening lines. But for me, the standout position and the standout game, I think, of the whole book is this game between Bai Jinshi against Ding Liren, played in the Chinese Team Championships in 2017. If you haven't seen this game before, well, you have to go buy the book just for this game. It is absolutely brilliant and involves a king hunt. And who doesn't like a king hunt? And I'm going to leave you with this position, and I'm going to ask you to put yourself in Ding Liren's shoes. I'm going to just flip the board around so you can see it from the black side. And what would you play here? You know, you've sacrificed your queen for a rook and a piece. And, if black doesn't do something now, well, then white is going to have a very happy game with that extra queen on the board. But can you solve it? Now, I'm not gonna give you any more hints other than check it out, try and figure it out. It is absolutely brilliant. So that pretty much concludes my video for February. Now, what's next on the horizon? Well, I finished Coach Yourself, which I actually read on my iPad. I've moved on to another book, which was on my December wish list, which was Advanced Chess Tactics by Lev Sarkis. Now, whilst Coach Yourself was a book that I could easily read on my iPad, the beauty of Forward Chess is such that I actually don't need to use my iPad to read. I can actually treat my iPad like a good old-fashioned book. And with Advanced Chess Tactics, I indeed have been setting up positions on the board and working through, because this book is actually very, very complicated. But I have to admit, so far I have found the examples mind-bogglingly beautiful. I mean, I have been absolutely taken away by the complexity of chess. What is next in the horizon tournament-wise? Well, I actually have a pause until the end of March, where I'll be playing in Jersey. But until then, I have just a period of time where I'm playing a few league matches, and then I get to focus on my chess, which is kind of unusual that I'm not like dashing away to another tournament. But, you know, it's an exciting time. It's a time to rebuild, and I'm looking forward to it. Until the next, goodbye.